So you've got a commercial property in San Diego, and you know just how important getting an accurate appraisal is. But let's be real, the big question is always, what's it going to cost? Well, today we are going to break it all down for you so you can budget with total confidence. Let's jump right in.
So what is the bottom line? I mean, you need a solid number you can actually count on, right? Whether you're thinking about selling, maybe refinancing, or just mapping out your next big move. So let's cut to the chase and look at the numbers. All right, here it is. The general ballpark figure from Commercial Appraisal San Diego is somewhere between $2,000 and $6,000, and sometimes it can be more. Now, I know what you're thinking. That's a pretty wide range. So let's dig in a little deeper and figure out what actually determines where your property might land on that spectrum.
To give you a much clearer picture, let's look at the starting prices for different kinds of properties. This is really going to help you get a better handle on your potential costs right from the get-go.
Okay, first up, for all of you who own an apartment building or any kind of multifamily property, this one's for you. The key thing we're looking at here, it's all about the number of units you've got.
As you can see, it's pretty straightforward. The price scales up logically with the number of units. So a smaller building, say 5 to 15 units, starts at that $2,000 mark. But as the property gets bigger, like over 100 units, that baseline is going to be $4,000. This tiered pricing gives you a really clear idea of what to expect just based on the size of your building.
Now, what if you don't own a multifamily? What if you've got an office building, a warehouse, or maybe a retail space? Well, for you, the pricing structure is a little different. We're not looking at units anymore. Instead, we're going to be looking at the total square footage.
So for these properties, it's all about square footage. You can see the starting price for a smaller space, under 10,000 square feet, is $2,000. But for a much larger property, we're talking over 100,000 square feet, the baseline is $5,000. And this just makes sense, right? Bigger properties simply take more time and effort to appraise thoroughly.
Okay, but what if your property is a bit of a hybrid? You know, maybe it's got retail on the ground floor with offices or apartments up above? That's what we call a mixed-use property. And yep, they have their own unique pricing to consider.
Now, one thing you'll probably notice right away is that the starting fees for mixed use are a little bit higher. A smaller property under 10,000 square feet starts at $2,500. And that's because these properties are just inherently more complex. You're analyzing multiple types of uses and income streams all in a single building.
Now, this is super important to remember. All of these numbers we just looked at, they're the starting prices, the baseline fees for standard appraisals. If your property is more complex or the scope of what you're asking for is unique, the final cost could be higher. So, what are those specific things that can affect that final price?
Let's pull back the curtain and look at the key factors that can really influence the final cost of your appraisal. Understanding these will give you the full picture.
Okay, so it really boils down to three main things. First, the property size, which we just saw. Second, the complexity of its use. And third, the scope of the work you're requesting. For example, a specialized industrial facility with a bunch of custom equipment is naturally going to be more complex to appraise than a simple empty warehouse. And in the same way, a really detailed feasibility study is going to cost more than a basic valuation.
And you know, this quote from Commercial Appraisal just hits the nail on the head. Size and complexity are the two big drivers behind the cost. And that's exactly why it's so important to get a custom quote that's tailored to your specific property.
So you're probably wondering, for that fee, what am I actually getting? Well, you're not just paying for a number. You're really investing in a comprehensive analysis of your property's value and its potential.
The appraisal is going to be laser-focused on your property's ability to generate income. This can include all sorts of analysis, from a straightforward valuation to a rental survey or even a study of the property's highest and best use. And in the end, you'll get a detailed report with all the findings, tailored exactly to what you need.
All right, now that you've got a way better understanding of the starting points and the factors that can affect the price, you're probably wondering, how do I get an exact quote for my property? Well, the good news is the process is super simple, and I'll walk you right through it.
Honestly, there are just three simple steps. First, gather some basic info about your property. The address, its size, and why you need the appraisal. Second, just reach out to Commercial Appraisal. You can call, email, or use their website. And third, you'll get a free, no-obligation quote made specifically for your property. That will give you a firm number you can use for all your planning. It's that easy.
And really, that brings us to the final question you should be asking yourself. After seeing this breakdown, you probably have a much better sense of where your property fits. Is it a standard issue assignment that fits right into those starting prices we saw? Or does it have some unique complexities that need a more custom look? Thinking about that is your perfect next step.